Hi, this is Cheryl, and this is a video that's talking about a couple of things to pay attention to in finding a really stable yet dynamic base of support when you're doing a kind of lunge move, particularly to set up a preparation for a front roll. And it's something that, I've seen in working with people that they fall to the ground as part of their role. And so, of course, you want to find a place both of control as you go down, but also of reversibility, that as you prepare to go down and do the role, that at any point you could bring that back up. It's a much more viable, more martially helpful way to set up your preparation for role so that you can reverse it at any time. And there's a couple elements that I'll walk us through in the setup of it, and then show that in the context of preparing for a role. So, couple things. Looking at this whole, starting in your ready stance, your hominy stance, and focused on how you're using your feet as points of support for this bending to come down. And so, there's a couple points of focus that might be helpful. One is focusing on what I would call the sandal point. So this point in the ball of your feet between your big toe and your second toe, and having that point on both feet as a place to not just push down into the ground, but to push outwardly so that you actually have a sense that there's forces going both ways. So that when you start to bend, when you start to come down to become ready, you've got this dynamic base of support happening beneath you. Another element that is really great to play with is this simple sense of how you're turning the front of your pelvis, your pubic bone, toward one knee, toward the other. When we prepare to go down, when we're doing Ukemi, it's a way of keeping the turn radius of your body quite tight and staying in the center of your column. So I'd like to do movement study that looks at how do I retain this directionality out, and then make use of the freedom of movement in this kind of combination. And so bringing that together, this sense of movement, directionality out, this ability to come down, especially when you're working out the kinks of rolling, really helpful to put this in place, simply to bring yourself closer to the ground, to make that distance of coming onto the ground to roll much, much smaller. And in fact, that you're in constant contact with the ground so that you can just roll yourself under and come over, rather than having some kind of higher learning to roll and I've got to throw myself over in some sort of way. And so what I like to work on when I do this kind of movement study myself is in having this directionality of the feet, this expanding out, this filling out. I want to reacquire that on the other side of the roll so that I have this expansion. And then as soon as I make contact, I'm re-expanding out. And so I find it has an impact that allows me to really use that connection with the ground to completely come out of the roll, rather than having to use any core muscles or much less of core muscles to complete that movement, come up to standing and be ready to do the next move. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you find this helpful.